South Africa. We're so excited to be here with you, closing out the show. What an amazing event. This has been fantastic. We're talking about it all over the world, and what a great job you all have done. Regional leadership, fantastic, wonderful. Really excited to have this conversation with two of my absolute favorite people on the planet. And this is a panel on talking. And so we had to search high and low to find people who we thought could actually carry 45 minutes of talking around scripts, talking about the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. These are people who have recruited a ton of people to Keller Williams using the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. So before we get started, Melanie Kinnaman, Karen Prawl, two of my absolute favorites. Karen, tell us about you a little bit.
I am Melanie Kinnaman's sister. I swear we were born to be related, but I've been with Keller Williams 17 years, and I've had almost every role from agent to ALC member, coach, team leader, OP, and just moving on. And it's been an extraordinary experience. So I've recruited more than 1,400 people to KW, and not even getting close to stopping. So just getting started.
Welcome, love it. Hi, Melanie.
Hi, it's so good to see all my South African friends. You know, we were just talking about how long you guys have been doing this, and I got to be there at your very first one, and that was so special to me. Gosh, I've been, I was talking with my two friends here, and, we all come kind of from the same generation of Keller Williams, and we've really seen what's happened. And it's just an honor to be here with you guys today. So I started my career 15 years ago in a little town called Reno, Nevada by Lake Tahoe. Was team leader there 3.5 years. Took it to number 1 in our city, number 1 in our region, number 21, all of Keller Williams. And I moved to Austin 10 years ago, where I took over the flagship office with a partner team leader, took that from 500 to 900 and something. And then 6 months ago, I got a little tap from Gary Keller, and he said, okay, great job. Go and take over Central and North, where I had been the OP for the last 3 years. So now for the last 6 months, I have been the full-time Austin North, and we are so excited because we hit $1 billion in volume, Mark and Karen. So, and I too have recruited thousands in this company, believe in this company, and I see how it changes lives every day. So
I love it.
Happy you guys here.
I'm so excited. Well, it's so interesting because we do all come from the same cloth. If you two are sisters, I'm the crazy uncle. Karen,
you're the crazy
brother.
Brother.
Okay, so I think I recruited 1,401 people to the company. Just kidding.
I didn't want to make you feel bad. For me, it's at least 1,600, but there you go.
1,607 or something like that. No, we've all been here a really long time. And I think what's cool about that is we were here before the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, which I have in my hands. This is my 13th copy because I lose them and I wear them out. But I will tell you, we were around before it even came out. We had the white papers. We were teaching 6 personal perspectives, all the same concepts that you see now. Gary has taught for much longer than the 2004 release date. And ladies, you have recruited a ton of people with this tool. In fact, I believe this is the strongest tool. So Karen, let's start with you. Why is the MREA the strongest recruiting tool that you have?
Because it's a model, honestly. It applies to anyone, whether doing 1 transaction, 100 transactions, or 3,000 transactions. It's actually how we run market centers and regions also. So it is a tool that you can apply to any business. It's a business conversation. It made me smarter. And I can dial in so quickly just by the economic model, lead gen model, of to help an agent really clearly understand what he wants, because it worked for me. So when I was an agent doing the business planning clinic, it wasn't until I took it through the MREA that I understood in order for me to make $250,000, I needed to meet 9 new people every day. It was that simple for me to get what I wanted. So since I experienced that, it's super fun to help someone discover how simple business is. It's just hard work.
Love that. Great tool. All right, Melanie, how about you?
My story might be a little different. I think you guys were agents longer than me. I was only an agent for 10 months. And my background was the film industry, right? So I ran movie sets and crews and people, the actors, directors, everything. I lived in Germany for 9 years. And so when I got into Keller Williams, I knew I wanted to be a team leader. And 10 months later I was. And I remember when I started, I didn't have the legitimacy of I was on track to be Rookie of the Year for the city, for all companies. Yet I didn't have years and years of real estate experience, right? So the MREA tool, that book, actually it had come out when I started. So I did have the MREA, and that was my thing. I remember listening to Mo Anderson, and she said, when you consult a mega agent, you only have to be 1 week ahead of them, right? You only have to be one question ahead. So those models, like the economic model, the organizational model, all of, the budget model, you go on and on, all of those gave me conversations I could have with anybody. And nobody was having those conversations. So I'd say, so tell me just, and we'll get into that later, but let's talk about the breakdown of your business. I was an expert over the other people that were doing 20, 25 million because I had the MREA. So it's the models, it's what Karen said, it's the models, it gives you a tool and powerful conversations to have with anybody. And that's with your existing agents too, right? Because if you're a new team leader, you should be recruiting your own people first, and then you have something to recruit too, right?
You're right.
If you're not using it, you're missing out, right?
Great points, Melanie. And both of you brought up amazing points. This is not a sledgehammer, it's a scalpel as a tool, right? And you have to understand at that level. I don't think as an agent, I read this book. And I think it was not until I became a team leader. So Melanie, being a week ahead, it doesn't matter where you are. The good news about our industry is real estate agents typically won't read this entire workbook manual, right? It's not I used the analogy this morning, it's not a long flowing romantic Disney movie. It is a absolute business book on how to get anywhere you want to go. And I think the big key to this is understanding the 4 economic models, Karen, as you said. And no matter who you're talking to, this addresses a pain point that every agent has. And so knowing those two factors, the agents aren't going to study at the level you will, and that there's a recipe for anything that ails them. I literally have 2 pages that I go to more than any other. 137 is the lead gen model, and 273 is the org model. And if you know those 2 models, you'll address 99.9% of all agent challenges. So anything else before we move on to the next question you want to add about the MREA?
I would just add on, Mark, I get the privilege of meeting with the leadership here in South Africa, and Karen, you probably do too, at their growth calls and stuff. And like, they had me come to the 30-30-40 model or whatever. But you think about all that comes from that book, right? All of those conversations, even a tech audit, when you're going, that is just digging deeper, leading to the organizational model, right? So I love how even today in 2021, this book is so relative, right? And so if you're not using it, and it's the concepts of it, it's the philosophy of it, and so I just love how that's carried on with us all, generations.
Karen, what would you add?
The first time I opened it, it read like a technical manual to me. I had no interest, I'll be honest. It's just, I have a hard time sitting still. Shocking for all of us to say that about each other. And I read it about 6 or 7 times. But then I stopped being so hard on myself, and I just started to read pieces. And I took the business planning clinic over and over and over again, and I chunked it down. And I knew once I could master one, which is the economic model, then I could go to the lead gen model, then I could go to the budget model, then I could go to the org chart. And so I had never had any intention of building a huge team, but I did need to learn how to run a business. And so that's where it became really effective for me.
I had a huge aha, Karen. I was in a meeting with you 2 days ago. It's the week's running, and you taught me something. We were talking about command, and you popped up, shared your screen, and what I realized, my aha in that moment was your level of technical expertise around market center financials and the millionaire real estate agent specifically gave you an advantage to understanding command, because command is the software for this hardware. And I thought I understood that, but when I watched you walk through some of the new Market Center Command, features, I realized in that moment that the stronger your base of knowledge for these models and systems, the easier the adaptation to the technology, where we're going as a company, consulting agents at a high level. And if you look at our playbook that Gary authored for us this year, I know I'm getting the green screen disappearance.
Green screen effect.
But this is the playbook that we're using to run all of our market centers. And both of you strike me as leaders who are not recruiters. You both strike me as consultants, people who actually get in and dig. You also care about people at a high level. That helps. And you consult agents, you don't recruit them. Melanie, will you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. It's all about the conversations, right? Like literally I'll meet with people and they're like, why are you helping me? And I'll say, because that's what I do. And at some point you're going to get really mad at the company you're at, and guess who you're going to call? And I want to be your next person. Right. And so like literally I had Gary Gentry sitting in my office with this Coldwell Banker person. And she said, why are you helping me? No one helps me like this. It's the conversation. First of all, people are not going to open up to you if they think they're being recruited. Like, unless they want to be recruited, that is a turn off. Like, do not come off as a recruiter. If you are generally interested in people, that's how you build that camaraderie and that trust that you earn the right to consult with them. So if you bring value and ask questions that are powerful and really make them think, and then you show that you can be a solution to a problem, it's always about the conversation. And literally, I heard early on in my career, I forget who said it, but they said, I'd never be attached to the outcome. And I loved that, because again, I've always been a people person. I've always, my name Kenneman actually means to know people in German. And I love people, and that's always been my thing. I know that's my thing. I want to make a difference, and I want to help people be the best versions of themselves. So when I meet somebody, I'm like, first of all, I don't know if we're a fit. And then I think about all the things we have at Keller Williams. Like, I just want to help this person. And so it's such a different energy. And so when people say, oh, did you close them? I'm like, oh, literally, I had this one recruit, Mark, in Austin. And I'd met with the wife, and she had been referred to me by Holly Priestner because they knew each other from somewhere. And they were struggling because no one at their company knew how to build a team. And Holly says, you got to talk to Melanie. That's her thing, right? So we met. She even met me at the office. We have a great conversation, and she's like, wow, this woman can really help me in my business. So I said, well, let me meet your husband. We go have sushi together. We're talking about their business again. And then we make another lunch. And at that third meeting, the husband says, so when are you going to pitch us on Keller Williams? And I said, when you're ready. And I have a feeling the time is now. So when can we set up, and let me show you how and be that solution to all your problems? And they joined, right? Yeah. But that to me is, and they're friends to this day. They're friends, dear friends to me.
I love that. So Karen, what does Prahl mean in German?
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know, because it's my married name, but my maiden name is Schmidt, so that is a German name also. Which, but I'm with Melanie.
Mm-hmm. Karen, talk about how you consult, because those 1,400 people were consulted and attracted in, not chased and recruited in, right?
Well, first, it's master it by practicing on the people inside your market center. So it's the exact same conversation inside the market center, outside. So pulling your agent and say, I'd like to have a business consultation with you. It could be a check-in. You could be new to the market center. There are so many reasons, but bring value. And one of my favorite things about consulting to the book is, well, first of all, there really isn't a team leader conversation that I don't have that doesn't root cause back to the MREA. But we've been in team leaders for so long. It's so embedded in us, and we think we wrote it. Actually, we didn't. And you practice.
A reminder.
Yeah. We practice on the people inside our market center because it is the exact same conversation. But for me, my favorite thing is it causes someone to think bigger and what's possible and what's important to them, because the MRA just chunks it down. And when I can leave a meeting and a 20-minute consultation and know their dreams, know their goals, know who they take with them on vacation, why that would be important for how long, where they're going, from one conversation based on a model, it's superior. And I know they walked away knowing that I know them better than their broker ever will.
Yeah.
It's the human connection first. And I think that's what we miss sometimes, is we think we're recruiting someone and, hey, we're cheaper. Hey, we have this feature, we have that. It's connecting with them on a human level, building a relationship, trusting relationship. And then, oh, by the way, you better believe we got the technical expertise behind us to help you with anywhere you want to go. And so one of the things, let's get into a couple of the questions you might ask. One of my favorite things to do is almost like a pattern interrupt. As soon as I would meet someone for the very first time, I would always kind of lovingly, jokingly say, so what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And, that would make them suddenly melt or be, not be so defensive or whatever the case is. And they would just open up and we'd start to dream again. Karen, that's what you allude to. So what are some of the questions that you might ask, or what are some of the statements you might make during a consulting session?
My favorite one is, what do you need more of, time or money?
That's mine.
I mean, we don't have to overcomplicate it. And then when they say whatever it is, I say, great, I'm going to ask you another question. Are you ready? And they go, yeah. And I go, okay. what would your friends and family say the answer is? What do they want more of you from? Do they want more time or do they want more money?
Bingo.
And that got some, right? Mark, you just felt that pain, didn't you?
Yeah. Ow.
Because it's not always the money. It's not always the money. That's and remember that it is not always the money, but you
It's
want
rarely the money.
conversation with them, right? Yeah.
And so let me break it down quickly too for new team leaders. Shorten the lifespan. It took me the 6 years to understand the book. Is that encompasses all conversations. That is the economic model conversation. That is the lead gen conversation. That is the budget conversation. That is the org chart conversation, because all of that can be attained. More time can be attained by plugging those models. It's not about building a team. 75% of our agents are individual agents. It's about using your time wisely and making it purposeful so everyone gets the best out of you.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, and I would add one small thing, and that is after you get through, when you earn the right to build a relationship first, and then you get into business, it's always going to come down to one of a couple things. And time and money are the two big buckets. The other things that are going to come up is, leverage, building a team, building bigger than what you can do yourself, and then opportunities. And this is something that, it's been a big important part of my journey is I want to know what's out there. And both of you have huge opportunities today because of what you did in the initial role that you had. And so this company thinks so abundantly that they may be coming in as an agent. It may be their first day as an agent. It may be their first day with Keller Williams, but we have so many opportunities. And what they're looking at you for is to find out, are you a representative of what I could be at some point? And you ladies do that very well. So
are you an opportunity creator, right? And that's the other thing. Like, are you that facilitator to get them where they want to go, right?
Can you help me? Right. Can you help me with my business and can you facilitate where I want to go? Absolutely. I love that. All right, let's have some fun. Not that this wasn't fun. This is always fun hanging out with you. Melanie, what's the biggest recruiting mistake you've ever made?
I really thought about that question. I was really working on that. I think I would say my biggest mistakes were you have somebody on the line, like you've gotten the intrigue and you've gotten the curiosity and you didn't follow up fast enough. Like you didn't hit them while it was hot. So that was just, I think that's a common one for team leaders because you get busy, distracted, and you mean to, and then by the time you do, they've joined somewhere else, or that fire has fizzled and they're like, no, I'm good. I've thought about it. I'm going to stay. And then now the wall is up again. Right. So just not keeping on, because again, remember the follow-up is in the magic's in the follow-up. And then there was another one just from a standards perspective, and Mo Anderson always takes over. Mo and Gary are kind of my people that I always compare myself to. What would Mo do? What would Gary do? And I had a guy, a new agent, and I'm sure you've all been there. And I was like, I really don't want this guy. I don't think he's good for our brand. I shouldn't hire him. But in Nevada, and I was a newer team leader in Nevada, just like any state, and maybe in South Africa, we have background checks. I know it's very different in South Africa, but I knew he had some kind of history. So I thought he's not going to get his license anyway. So the painful thing is he got his license. And so then I had to dehire him and have that conversation how he was not a match. So that was very early on as a team leader for me. Who you're in business with matters. And I knew I did not want to be in business with this person. So I then had to have that conversation with him about how we're not a match, right? And I could have saved myself all that trouble from just the beginning knowing that. So that probably was mine.
I love it. Karen, how about you?
Oh, every day, couple. I have several. One is not understanding financials well enough to have a business conversation, because the people entering the market now due to COVID are former pharmaceutical reps, attorneys. We've got a higher caliber of people entering the industry. So making sure I know that conversation. So I thank God. The second thing is my ego, right? That's my biggest recruiting mistake. And what I mean is I got a call one time from a $40 million team and said, I want to talk to you about KW. And my ego thought, I've made it. They are calling me. This is amazing. I'm amazing. And so I talked to them and I brought them on, and it was the worst cultural fit I've ever had. And it made our market center so toxic. And I was so excited about my numbers because the quality is in the quantity. There was no joke. It wasn't until I embraced that things changed for me. But I thought I was that good that they were now calling me, but it wasn't. That was my ego talking. They were without a culture, and removing them from our company was one of the best decisions I ever made as a leader.
I love it. When I saw this question, what's the biggest recruiting mistake you ever made? I wrote down all of them, right? Because if you're around,
yeah, right.
around this long, and that's part of the fun of doing the role. And I thought about a couple of fun examples. One was I once opened a market center in someone else's region on accident. That's hard to do, by the way. It was your
that was my region.
It was your region, but it was with the right intention. So I had a friend at a competitor who was kicked out of her brokerage with 12 of her other friends, and I drove to the state capitol and got a license and just popped them up, and away we went. But I think the overarching challenge that I would say is I didn't understand the 1 versus 200. I can call it ego too. But I had the cape on and the spandex pants, and I thought, I'm going to go do this, and I'm amazing, and I'm going to go, because why wouldn't anybody want to work with me? And then I realized that, the universe was telling me something. If I had 200 raving fans, and what's funny is I built my real estate business this way, right? I never cold called for listings, but I had so many amazing sellers that just told so many people, and suddenly I could take my sales pitch times 200. And I did that in the market center level. And when you build 200 raving fans with the agents, because you consult them at a high level, you help them win, right? We have to put the agents first. And when the agents win, everyone else wins. Right. So understanding that my last couple of years as a team leader, I recruited more than, 20 a month and never made a cold call, right? It was consulting our way to those numbers. So I didn't understand that at the beginning. I thought I had to do everything myself. And it turns out that doesn't work.
You're right, Mark. Doing it alone is no fun. And I'll if I can say something, until we make our own agents better, we haven't earned the right to make anyone else's agents better. And so do it through your agents. So I always ask people, go find 2 or 3 people that you really want to pour into, and they want to commit to you to be better.
Yeah.
And go help them. And then the people will watch. They're watching. Trust me. They're always watching.
You have that story to tell, right? When you do that, when you grow from within, and people are saying, well, I don't have those stories. It's like, well, find stories other places and create your own, right? Because that becomes the conversation. Yeah, think about it. Like, I've done this 13 and a half years solid straight. And it's like, I don't cold call. I don't. And it's all relational, just like Mark, and I know Karen's the same way. It's a connection somehow, right? It's creative, it's strategic, very strategic. I don't know them, right? But it's a connection, and it's a much different conversation. And I remember same thing, Mark, at the beginning, I really thought I'm like, okay, this team leader role, I know I'm going to be good at it because I know how to do this. I've always been a leader of people. I love people. I'm like, but the recruiting part, I don't know if I'm really going to like that. And it turns out that the recruiting was the most fun part, because you actually have to re-recruit your people first, right? And then you got to get the buy-in, and the more you pour into them, the easier it gets. I agree with you. There's a lot of team leaders out there that just cold call. Good for them, great. But again, everything great starts with a great conversation and a relationship, in my opinion.
You just gave me a huge aha, because I think there's a direct correlation between the leads you receive from your own agents and the value you provide them. So if you're a market center that's not getting any leads for other agents, the first step would be to dig back in and start consulting your own people. When you take people from brand new to changing their life financially, or 3 million in volume to 100 million in volume, they can't stop talking about how amazing their office is and the company is and all those things. So there's a direct correlation. That's really good. I'm gonna bring that up.
And use it, right? Create your story. I mean, Tim Heil was a story we had in Austin. I had a great story in Reno of, they got to be interviewed by Gary Keller. They were losing everything. A year later, they were doing $1 million in GCI and #1 Fannie Mae lister in our city. I think about this other person that just moved north with me when I moved. She'll do her goal's 90 million this year and 100 flips on the side. I met this woman 4 years ago. She was working full time for the Hyatt. She's from Macedonia, which is Eastern Europe, right? So I call her my American dream story. And then you interview them and you make video from it and you share that story with people. And it's just an attraction. Now I have like 5 recruits of hers I'm working on, because they're like, I want that. Yeah. And she says it's because of Keller Williams and our relationship.
Those love
are the stories you want to create, right?
And
they're amazing. They're all around you. You just got to find them and create them.
And one of the benefits of before the call, Melanie called me old, and one of the benefits of being old is that
I called you handsome.
Today we have so many younger team leaders to the role, and they look at you two and they go, they're so amazing and that sort of thing, and they didn't see the years of struggle
Yeah.
to get there. So what are some of the in your minds, what are some of the biggest limiting beliefs for team leaders today?
I don't bring value.
Yep.
They don't want to hear from me. I'll tell you, I have recruited, well, I'll say recruited, but I've communicated with people for 2 and 3 years.
Yes.
And we recruited a $35 million producer a couple of years ago, #1 in our new market center launched a market center around her. And she said I was the only one that called her.
Wow.
That's why
Yeah.
she took my call.
I think they don't feel legit, Mark. I think they just don't feel valid enough, right? And it's a real limiting belief. And I remember as a new team leader, and I speak in front of group, like people's not a problem for me, but I think I made the mistake of I thought I had to be the square fitting into a triangle. I thought now that I'm a team leader, I have to be something different than I was before, that I had success with my whole life, whether it was in film or anything I'd ever done. I'd been successful because I was myself. And I felt like when I became a team leader, my first year, I felt like I was trying to be something I wasn't, right? I thought I had to be something I wasn't. And I lost my authenticity. I lost the gift that Melanie is, right? Is that I love people. And the minute I started having fun again, and the minute I made it not a forcing a triangle and that square together, right? And it just started to flow because I just said, you know what, just do what I know how to do, which is love on people, help them be the best versions of themselves, and believe that Keller Williams is the way to get them where they want to go, right? And so I think that was a big limiting belief for me. I thought I had to be this big businesswoman. I mean, I'm a businesswoman, but I'm still fun and I'm still creative, but I'm authentically myself, if that makes sense.
Well, it's not taking ourselves too seriously.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
Well, you both alluded to it, and it's so funny because I talked to a new team leader. He's been on the job 8 months, and he was a very successful agent. And I asked him, he did something like $1 million in GCI with his team before taking the team leader role, and he's kind of 6th level. And I said, so how long have you been an agent? And he said 18 years. And he said, I just don't understand why I'm not succeeding at the highest level in team leader role. And I said, well, you're underestimating the time it takes. Yeah. Because, understanding, the analogy I use, here in the States is grade school and junior high and high school. You would never expect a 1st grader to perform at the same level in calculus as a 12th grader. You would never expect that. And yet we have people in team leader role in their 1st year, and you're saying, why aren't you leading the nation in recruiting? It doesn't work that way. It takes years. And this is a big aha too, Karen. When I became an OP, I realized if I was my own OP as a team leader, I would have never made it as a team leader, because it took me 3 years to really not be bad at that role.
I agree.
It's a big shift. Yeah, it is. It's a big shift.
We underestimate the time it takes. Think about it this way: a world-class consultant in finances or dental work or any, building roads or whatever the case is, they didn't do it overnight. I don't think we give ourselves enough time to truly grow into the role. So that would be.
Totally agree with that, Mark. And I always say the same thing because all 3 of us really love pouring into team leaders. It's one of our favorite things, right? Because we know that they are the game changers of this company. And so I love having people come shadow me. I love all that stuff. I love working with South Africa, but it's just so interesting that they'll get frustrated and they'll come shadow me and they're like, oh, so you just work really hard? And it's like, there's no magic pill. You're just meeting with people all day. You're doing the hustle. I'm like, yeah, I just do it. It's just that you're waiting or you're expecting it to come too quickly. And it's just like with a new agent. The 1st year, what's your expectation of a new agent? Just like you said with school. I said the 1st year is figuring out what the heck am I doing, right? 2nd year, you're like, got my groove on. It's kind of coming together. And I always call the 3rd year, also in real estate, excuse me, and team leader, the magic year, because now you own it. Now you are, if you fail at this point, I mean, it's not that you're failing along the way, but you really are in your groove by 3rd year. And too many team leaders give up right before they're about to be great. Right? All of these relationships. I have people call me the other day. I had somebody last Friday say, hey, Melanie, how you doing? I want to come back to KW. Now those are fun, but I had a relationship with him and it was like the easiest recruit capper ever, right?
That's so smart.
We're examples of team leader longevity.
Yeah.
I mean, so people say, how have you done it for so long? It's hard, right? It's hard to run a marathon. And I always say it takes 18 months to 2 years to get your team leader legs. right? To get your legs to like really understand what you're doing. And we do give up because team leader behavior profile typically, or OP, is quick results.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is it doesn't translate markets. So I moved 7 times in 7 years, because my boss at the time was the CEO, and we were launching market centers and turning them around, doing different things. And a huge mistake I made was thinking, I had been in the role at the time for 10 years and went to a new market thinking that would translate, because generally every year gets easier as a team leader, right? But it takes that market matters. And so it took me a couple of years to realize that the 11th year was really my first year. I think the other big thing, and tell me if you see this, because we're all OPs as well. The big thing I struggle with limiting beliefs with team leaders is they won't ask for help. We want to look good, we want to be right, and they think if they ask for help or expose that they don't know something, that we're going to be down on them or something. But have you experienced that?
Oh my gosh.
That's our team.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so sad, actually. It's just so sad to see, because that's all ego, and they're just getting in the way, especially when you have, no offense, this is not arrogance. This is just proven facts. When you have the 3 of us as your OP, we have something to offer, right? And we're all in because we're in this together, right? What a great partner. But I can't tell you how many times it goes in. And I understand that because I'm super competitive, but they don't see the value of that person. Like, I wish I had had an OP like me, right? I wish that I had an OP that was playing all in, because I know what that can do. But I see the difference now, being the OP of one office and then going in as executive team leader, how much didn't get done that I thought was getting done.
Amen, Melanie.
OMG. So it's a relaunch, what I'm doing right now, right? It's like, wait, what? I've been it's even in the same city, Mark. At least I have the relationships in the city, but I'm like, OMG, I've been the OP for 3 years and this stuff's getting not done. So it's revealing, right? It's really revealing. But that if team leaders, if you would see your OP as a huge resource, right? And ask for help. And they're not always right. Trust me, in Reno, when I started, I thought bigger than my OP all the time. And in fact, I would come to him with ideas like, hey, I want to recruit the Janice Koppel, who was the president of the Real Estate Commission in Nevada. Loved her. I would go to all her continuing ed classes. I loved her. I'm like, if she was our broker, what a game changer that would be. And she was at Coldwell Banker as the manager. And he's like, yeah, you'll never get her. You'll never get her. Well, I got her, right? And she's amazing. But it's those kind of things, like, don't let that. And so he said, well, I'll never say that again, right? And so we had fun around it.
No, you're like, keep saying it. Keep saying it. Say
yeah,
it.
Come on. I like that challenge. But that is a huge benefit to have an OP that is really, they have skills that you don't. Like, I think I'm better as a team leader than an OP, only because.
I want to add to that, Melanie, because it's not just the OP asking for help, it's asking for help. We are a company that is franchised with independent owners and investors around the world and are willing. So what many of you don't, most of you would never know, is I called Melanie as a brand new ATL. I was in Amarillo, Texas, and she's in Reno, Nevada. And I said, hi, I admire you. I have some questions. I'm really struggling. I think really big and my OP doesn't. And what do I need to do? And that forged a relationship that still stands today, and it's better. And so when you don't ask for help, my OP and I just talked about this on our show this morning, is that it's actually a sign of weakness as a leader, because you can't do it alone. And you have to be humble enough to know, that's the whole R2G2 program too. And the bet on red is we're providing help, but if you're not raising your hand, it's going to be tough. And gosh, what other company in the world is helping each other succeed through these tight relationships? It's unbelievable.
Well, and you are where you are. You are where you are because of the choices you make. And one of those choices is, you have to go along this journey. And we're going to jump into, because we're going to run out of time here, but I want to jump into some scripts. This is Scriptmasters, and you've heard a lot of the thinking about them. You've heard a lot of scripts so far, and you are where you are because of the choices you make. And if you continue to make a choice that I don't want to expose that I don't know everything. By the way, you're never going to know everything. I don't know how many times we've read this book, and it feels like it's new every time, but I would tell you that is you got to ask for help. It's Karen, I think you said it perfectly. It's a sign of weakness if you don't. And so let's do this. All right. So scripts, let's jump into scripts. And your favorite, let's just start with, what's your favorite script, Karen?
Well, what's more important to you, time or money? Really, for me, it's my favorite script as a new team leader is to invite someone to an event, right? So your calendar, my MAPS coach taught me that if I didn't have something on my calendar every week that a $20 million producer wouldn't be excited to come to, then my calendar wasn't worth it. And so when I got that in order, and then I had a reason to call. So it's having a reason to call. It's either that, it's about their numbers, or I'm new in the market, right? Mark, you've moved around. Melanie, we've all been team leaders in new markets where we didn't know anyone. And I would imagine there's not an excuse that the three of us haven't used, right?
Yep.
At some point, we've used them all. Like, we're out of excuses of why it's not working. And so that's my favorite is I said this last night to a team leader. Just like as an agent, there are 10 recruiting sources, right? Or 10 ways to go get new clients in a sphere. Find your 3 and master them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. All right, best script, just any script, Melanie.
Yeah, I love the time or money one. And then the more you dig deeper, and I say, well, what if I could help you do both, right? And because sometimes they don't realize there's a both. Like, I just hosted Gene Rivers for 2 days for the Leverage series, right? And that is such a mind-blowing series about being in business with the right people and your infrastructure matters. My favorite script that I've been using in 2021 is every year I kind of like to reset. When you've done it as long as we have, you kind of like need to have kind of a theme for the year or whatever to kind of keep it real. I was just going to use it for January, but actually this is now my theme for the year. And I said, you know what? Are you playing to win or are you playing not to lose? And I feel like in 2020, there was a lot of playing not to lose all around the world. My friends in South Africa, right? Oh my gosh, are we going to be able to do real estate? There's this thing called the coronavirus. We're all shut down. Are we going to be able to sell houses, right? We were playing not to lose because something like this has never happened in our lifetime. Well, okay, next month, at least in the United States, and I think our timing is similar, it's a little off of South Africa. It's a year for us. It's a year that we've been dealing with this. So excuse over, it's time to play to win. And I always say, you can't win a game by just playing defense, right? When have you ever been to any kind of athletic event where you just play defense at an amazing level, but you never scored a point? You don't win the game, right? So you have to play offense. And defense is a lot of the agents like juggling everything, whatever, not getting rid of contract to close, whatever. And offense is, I'm going to go find a way to find inventory even when there's no inventory. So are you playing to win or are you playing not to lose? And so that's a conversation by the questions that you open up with and say, okay, so you tell me this. Do you feel like you're playing to win or do you feel like you're playing not to lose?
Now, on that point, and what I'm realizing right now is what also comes with time in the role is confidence, because both of you deliver those conversations at such a confident, not arrogant, not cocky, but a very confident, because you're challenging the person to think bigger. And if you don't have the confidence, you're not going to challenge them. I learned as an agent, and this is what every agent thinks, right? But if I could get to the table, I would get the listing. Right. I just had to get there. My biggest challenge was getting to the table. Once I got to the table, I felt like I could, right? Same as a team leader. So the script that I developed from somewhere was, that's exactly why we need to meet. No matter what would happen, if they'd say, we're going to sell it ourselves, we don't want to pay a commission, we're going to talk to a competitor, whatever it is, well, that's exactly why we should meet. Same with agents. I don't have time to meet. Well, that's exactly why we should, because we're the masters of leverage and building teams. I don't want to pay money. Well, that's exactly why we need to meet, because a lot of times we don't know the actual economic model. Whatever it is, that's exactly why we need to meet, and you two do this as well as anybody on the planet, because you're caring, because of the relationship and all those things. I think I sometimes see more as the salesperson. You two are seen more as the caring people. So we have our strengths, right? But if you can get in front of the person today, you would modify that to say, that's exactly why we should jump on a Zoom. And while this isn't as good, this is still better than a phone call. So love it. All right.
And Mark, with Zooms, I'm finding people are more willing to meet me, right? Because it's not, think about that. Like, people are more willing to meet because nobody's going to catch us at some coffee shop, because that always happens. It's like, if you've been around long enough in any town, you're going to run into your agent or somebody just when you go get milk at the store, right? So sitting there with a recruiter can be, or, God forbid they come to your office. Oh, no, 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 I'm not joining, right? And so think about this. I think that I'm going to keep Zooms for quite a while in some of my recruiting. Even agents that want to come in now and me, I said, you know what, let's do a Zoom first because I want to see their face. I want to see, I want to have that connection. Plus I can hop on, show them the tech. And I know Karen feels the same. And then I said, and then if you want to come in and do a tour, we can mask up and right. But we'll know each other. It's a different energy. I don't like having a meeting with somebody and have to be like this all the time because you miss so much of that body language and the expressions and yeah. So it's pretty, there's an upside to COVID is that we've learned to be masters in where we can communicate with people.
Karen?
You know, I want to add to that in several points because one, if you don't call and you don't get the at-bats, you're never going to nail the listing. So if I have an agent that comes to me, for example, because everything we do relates to what agents do, and they go to 63 listing appointments and get one, there's a problem, right? It might not be the seller, it might be me. And it's the same in attracting talent to KW. So if I don't make the call and mess it up and embarrass myself or say something wrong, I don't get to practice my game for the next call. And so my coach always challenges me is go get 99 no's, go get them, because there is going to be a yes in there and that feels good. And what I would much rather hear from a team leader is, oh my gosh, I just nailed an indie appointment. Now what do I do? Then not even know who the players are in their market. Please go bring that problem so then we get to all solve it together, because that's what makes it fun.
I love it. You know, I remember 2001, I was in a room with Mo Anderson and Dave Jinks, and they taught a script, and it was a script that we taught everyone to go out into the field. And what's amazing is this script has come back like crazy lately. That script was Keller Williams is the newest, most innovative, fastest growing national real estate company. And I'm with Keller Williams because at Keller Williams, I'm empowered to do whatever it takes to best serve you. It's a lot to say, but that was a room full of people who were brand new to Keller Williams. And so I used that, right? I didn't know any other scripts. I didn't even know what the word script meant at the time, right? I was just using it. And today, what's cool about that statement is today, Keller Williams is the newest, most innovative, fastest growing national real estate company. And I'm at Keller Williams because at Keller Williams, I'm empowered to do whatever it takes to best serve you. So that was so well internalized. And I think my huge aha from talking to you two today, you become a master of scripts when they're no longer scripts. When you've internalized it so much that it just rolls off, pops out of your head. So closing thoughts, Karen, we'll start with you. Anything and everything. How can we help our brothers and sisters in South Africa? You got 1 minute.
Pour in, understand the scripts, know the tools, because there is nothing, knowledge is power. And in the team leader role, when you really understand what those numbers mean and the story they can tell, for every single conversation you have inside or outside your market center, you're going to win.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, Melanie, final thoughts.
Yeah, I love what you just said, Mark. And I hope that they come back and listen to that script, because that is something in South Africa that's perfect to say. Perfect. I mean, when Althea stood up in Austin and said she was going to South Africa and she thinks she'll do a bit of recruiting, and then now look, here you guys are. That's why you're so special to me, right? Scripts, I felt the same way Mark did. I came from film, right? So we had scripts and this and that and actors. And I was like, yeah, but I'm this authentic leader. I don't like scripts. And then what I realized is actually scripts are just great answers to questions people don't have. And it's the way you say things. So lean into that. But I'll tell you this, for the team leaders on the call here today, and you know how we are all passionate about this, the speed of the leader, speed of the pack. And so I ask you as a leader, whatever your role is in a market center, are you playing to win? Are you playing not to lose? Because how you show up every day for your people will be infectious, and you never want to be the lid on any talent around you. So have a big life, live a big life, and always be 1 week ahead of them on whatever you're teaching them.
Gave me chilly bumps. I love that. I would close with this. In 1983, Gary started this grand experiment that said, what if we focus on the agent first? What if instead of being about the brand, we said, we're going to focus on providing the most amount of value we can to a real estate agent, and let's see where that takes us. And here we are, however many years later, and it took us to #1 in the world. You leaders are carrying that banner. And hopefully what you've witnessed today is a couple of amazing leaders who have helped grow this company, who are passionate about this company, never asking, hey, what's in it for me, right? It's a part of their DNA. And I would argue, and I would charge you with carrying on our culture, carrying on this grand experiment to go change the world, because that's what we're doing. Focus on the agent first. We're a brand that stands behind our agents, not in front of, and you have an opportunity to change a whole continent first and then help us change the world. So thank you, everyone. Karen, you're amazing. Melanie, you're awesome. If you love today,